Welcome back to the Something in the Wilderness podcast. My name's Steve, and today we have a special episode for you. Steve Jones from the Concert Pipeline podcast reached out recently, and he's coming up on his 500th episode this summer. And he said, hey, why don't we do something special? Because also, this guy that we have on the podcast today has interviewed Andrew multiple times over the years, including 20 years ago, before Everything in Transit came out, talking to him about Jack's Mannequin. Steve, I believe it was his first Jack's Mannequin interview. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what I claim anyway. So it was right there at the very beginning in the first couple of shows. And it was the first one where he went in depth and really talked about Jack's Mannequin and coming together with the band. And so, I mean, we didn't know that something corporate was done at that point. I mean, and we're put on hold twice. I mean, they really called it quits after that for a bit, but we didn't know that. We just knew he was taking a break and
Right.
kind of starting something of his own.
So you've been doing this a long, long time, and you have nearly 500 episodes. You've interviewed Andrew, and you're also a massive fan. I know you go to a lot of the shows out on the West Coast. It's the year of Jack's Mannequin, so we are talking Jack's Mannequin. And recently, Steve reached out to me and said, hey, let's do something special. What would you like to do? So we kind of bounced ideas off each other, and we decided, why don't we just bring in the man himself? Let's bring in Andrew McMahon, talk to him while he's out on tour. And fortunately, we made that happen today. So listen up, because we got a great one coming for you today.
Absolutely.
It's all the Steves.
It's all the Steves.
All your fans named Steve right here in one room. No, just kidding.
Amazing. I love it.
How are you doing, Andrew?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
We're good. We're good. We're excited to plan this episode for you. And I brought the other Steve in as well because it's the year of Jack's. I wanted to do something special for this tour for you, and it's a momentous occasion with coming up on 20 years of Everything in Transit. Also, I'm about to hit episode 500. Steve's about to hit episode 100 of his podcast, celebrating you and your music. So we're coming together in a room to talk about the old times and where we're at now.
Love it. Thanks, guys.
You're out on tour right now, right?
I am in the dressing room at the National in Richmond, Virginia. Sort of the second home of Jack's Mannequin is Richmond. So yeah, it's a bit of a homecoming show tonight.
And Andrew, I wanted to start by kind of going back, as we're talking about Jack's Mannequin and kind of thinking back to where we were 20 years ago. I mean, we talked in one of the fan, hangouts recently, but we were at this point where you did a small tour. You came to San Francisco as one of the locations, played Bottom of the Hill, came to what was my apartment at the time in San Francisco State and did that interview. And
oh, wow, that's right.
And the memories there, right?
Yeah.
It was something special. I mean, obviously for me personally to have you there, but also for your music. You were bringing these songs, which ended up being, so pivotal to your fans and your audience and you and your own career. Like looking back 20 years, where were you at that point? What was that like for you?
I mean, it was like getting loaded into a slingshot. I think when I started the work for Everything in Transit, it was really more of it was an experiment, right? It was like learning how to navigate the studio on my own with just myself and Jim at the helm. And, there was so much freedom involved in that where it was just like, dude, just running around and banging on stuff and doing these quick productions. And, by the time we got to, I mean, obviously if I go exactly 20 years ago, I would be sitting in a hospital room right now. But if we backtrack, maybe say like a month or two, there was so much excitement, right? It's like I had gotten to this place with this record where I was like, holy shit, this is my best music, like how did, and it was so exciting. And I had this label that was like hard charging. And like, it was almost like there was this sense that I was going to get a second shot at like blowing something up and that it had the potential to be bigger than anything I had done. And it really had come out of nowhere and from such a pure place. And so all of a sudden to have all this, all this energy and, secret street teams running around and sharing this music. And yeah, it was wild. And, I think even at the point that June came around, we had maybe dropped 3 or 4 songs quietly into the universe. And people were starting to figure out, oh, I think that might be the guy from something corporate. And, and shows had started selling out. And and it was crazy. And then it was over so quickly, and I don't mean over, but obviously everything changed, in an instant, which was, traumatic in ways I wouldn't understand for years, but I still had that record, and so I think and the record became a real point of pride and motivation to get well, was to get into the world so I could play it for people.
So in more recent years, I've read some of those journals, so you can still find them online. You were journaling.
I found them recently. I found them. Yeah. Yeah.
Incredibly interesting to look back. It's quite a time capsule, and it's really cool. There's some cool stuff in there because you're interacting with the fans at what feels like a really grassroots level. I mean, just like now with what you do with your fans. Yep. Back then you were doing that too. And it felt so underground at the time, at least looking back. I wasn't, honestly, yeah. I didn't know what was happening at the time. So I get to see it as a past thing. So it was really neat to look at.
A part of getting ready for this tour for me has really been about getting myself sort of spiritually prepared for it. Mm-hmm. I think I realized sort of early on, like the only way that this really matters is if it's a road toward some understanding of that time and closing the loop on some of those, pain points from then. And I digitized my entire archive of home videos and photos and really lived in it in a way that at the time I was like, is this going to be healthy at the end of the day? But it sort of was a pretty sort of healing and interesting process to go through, and reading some of those journals and seeing how quickly they shifted from kind of snarky Bukowski-esque travel blogs into holy shit, I could be dying, it was it's a pretty stark reminder, but also helped me to sort of get some clarity on those moments too.
It definitely felt really real. Yeah, as Steve and I were talking and getting ready for this, we were gonna ask you how you get ready, and you kind of already touched on that, how you got ready for this Jack's Mannequin tour. And we were thinking more along the lines of music, rehearsals and things. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there's a lot of that too. But it's interesting to hear you say that, the spiritual side, the emotional side, the mentally getting ready for reliving this, so to speak.
Well, I think the music, it's don't get me wrong, there was a lot of prep for the music and for building this production, has been a real, everybody has worked so hard. The band has learned so much music, and we've really put ourselves into it. The reason I've always been sort of resistant to reunions is understanding the why of it, and early on, I felt like they were more like, oh, it's a cash grab. It's sure, your fans are going to be stoked, but you're just going to go out and play the songs. And I think with the last 2 years of these reunions, the why has really been about re-engaging with the material and with the fans in a way that that really is about propping up these memories, right? But also coming at these shows and these songs with some perspective, with some reverence for what they were, and also using the time on stage to know a part of myself, and that wasn't always easy to know in the moment. I mean, that might sound a little heady, but it's really about trying to understand who I was and who I am, and understand the journey that it took to get from place to place, and how the music was a part of that, and to be able to bring that back into, the moment that we're living in.
I was going to say, so, kind of tying into the reunion and obviously last year you had a reunion with Something Corporate, and obviously you're in a completely different headspace than, when Jack started, and kind of departing Something Corporate, moving into this new chapter of your life at that point. Talk to me a little bit about the growth, that you've experienced in yourself, in kind of these relationships as well that you have with these people that are like family.
Yeah, well, I think, being in a band is hard. It's amazing, and it's been such a gift to be able to play with just incredible human beings and incredible talents, and but the journey of making things, or spending years on the road, it's easy the more time you spend playing shows together to sort of lose the thread of what makes those bonds so special, and I've been so lucky that I've managed to stay friends with all the guys I've played with over the years, and that I still play with so many of them in Wilderness, the Jack's band and the Wilderness band are in many ways one and the same, but I think really specifically with this tour, it's been an effort of all of us sort of putting on that old uniform, or, and saying, well, what do we like, what didn't get dealt with, or how can we, how can we show up on stage tonight and celebrate this, rather than be in our heads about like how it went at the end or whatever it was, and it was the same thing with the Something Corporate guys, and it brings up old wounds for sure, for all of us. We were effectively kids in these bands, and kids don't do the greatest job of interpersonal communication when it gets hard, and I think a lot of the time, the intervening years between these projects starting and wrapping up, has actually been about dedicating myself to having healthier relationships and being a better communicator. And by no means am I, the best at any of the above, but I do feel like I'm a lot better than I used to be, and that's a part of getting a little bit of a redo with all these projects, is trying to be better at that stuff.
Yeah, you shared some pretty deep stuff in your book a few years back when you released Three Pianos about some of those relationships. And it is neat to see how everything kind of came back together for the Something Corporate tour, now the Jax tour, and knowing some of those guys do Wilderness as well. So but it's really important to, I think, us as fans to see you guys all on stage having such a great time together. I was fortunate to see a lot of that take place on the cruise last November, where you had different mixes of the bands on stage at a time. And that was, as a fan, as you can imagine, mind blowing to see, like, Will playing with the Jax Wilderness guys, and then, Mikey coming over and playing with the SoCo guys, things like that. So just like changing it up, seeing you guys all on stage. I avoid set lists like the plague. So I'm seeing you in Pittsburgh tomorrow. Nice. And I want to be surprised. Like, I don't want to know what's been the opening song, the closing song. I don't look at set lists. I avoid people's reels at this time of year. But I do want to say I'll be at Pittsburgh tomorrow. But I did see that, John Sullivan joined you guys on stage in New York City. So that was like super interesting as a fan. Someone who hasn't been in the Jax mix for a long time. How'd that come about?
Well, look, John is our dear friend and our brother, and he started this road trip with Jack's Mannequin, and was a huge part, and especially in the making of The Glass Passenger. He played on a lot of those songs, and despite the fact that we got to a place where it didn't really make sense to work together anymore, it doesn't change the fact that he is as much a member of Jack's Mannequin as any of us, and so it started with like some harder conversations like earlier in the year. But as I was going through the video, like all these video clips that I was talking about in my preparation for this tour, I got this video clip put together, and it was just like, and really the basis for that opening is like, I was asking myself, like, what is Jack's Mannequin? Like, what is the why of me taking this project back on tour, and I was up late and just wrote this like little spoken word thing that was really just trying for me to answer the question. And then, and John was a huge part of that. And, I sent him the video and I said, like, dude, I love you. Like, we're going to come through Richmond. Would it make sense to come out and play a set? And he's like, dude, I'd love to play. Can I come to New York? I was like, yeah, and it was such a joy. It was like just to have everybody there, it's like, Mikey's been my guy forever, right? Like, he joined Jax at a really critical moment where it could have like just disappeared, and he carried us through our last couple of years and really brought life into it. And he's been with me ever since. And while it makes sense that he is the bass player in Jack's Mannequin on this tour, like, it's still really beautiful to get to have John here for some of these dates. And we just had such a nice night in New York, and it was like a real coming home. And now we're in Richmond, which is like, we used to call the band the Richmond Rats because they were all from Richmond. And that was like kind of the side name of the band was the Richmond Rats. And so we'll be here tonight. I think John's going to sit in for a few tonight with us. Cool.
So I heard on the Discord that you did a couple months ago with the whole group, Bobby said he learned every Jack's Mannequin song in preparation for this. How deep? No, he didn't. No?
He did.
No. Okay.
He might have. He might have. Every now and again, I'll be like, "Let's try this." He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna need to work on that."
Get back to me.
No,
Maybe last
yeah,
July he had them
yeah,
memorized. Now it's
yeah, yeah.
gone.
Yeah, no, that's actually probably true. No, go ahead, Steve. I cut you out. What were you going to say?
No, you're good. I was just curious how much you learned and kind of how, I mean, how many songs, I mean, obviously don't want to spoil the set list for Steve over here, but like going back to these songs, like what was your approach and how did you tailor what you wanted to play versus what the audience is looking for?
Well, look, I mean, I've been trying to play most of all of Transit because I know obviously it's a special record for all of us, and it is the 20-year anniversary. So aside from those tunes, there are like some anchor tunes from the other two records that are going to show up every night. Just not going to not play The Resolution. I'm not going to not play
Mhm.
Swim or Amy I or Release Me. So then from there it was really like we learned just about everything, including some of the B-sides. Although I'm finding that as I meet fans in various cities, they're like, "Why didn't you do this one?" I'm like, "Fuck, I didn't
Of
even
course.
think about that."
There's a lot
Um,
of B-sides. Yeah.
I know there's like more than an album's worth, but yeah. So it was, there was like certain like conversations amongst the four of us, especially where it was like, well, we really wanted to learn Cell Phone. That was like one that was just such a underrated song in our minds. There were songs, like I think tonight we're going to probably put up like Miss California tonight because like that
Nice.
one never really got a lot of love, but we love playing it. But yeah, we learned the records pretty much completely, and then threw in some of the more popular B-sides and ones that we really wanted to work out. And I think we'll continue to sort of work on those as we get deeper into the tour. So I was getting a lot of shit about Doris Day and Meet Me at My Window and like Locked Doors of all things, which we never played that. But they're on my radar. There's a little spot I've been reserving at the end of the night to like if I have the time at soundcheck to kind of work up something acoustic, maybe I'll just work it up and just last night or the night before last, I had people running acoustic, and I was like, I don't
Oh, very cool.
remember exactly how to play this, and like basically was working out the piano figure through the whole entire song. But yeah, so there's also the availability of moments like that, like which may be the way some of these deeper cuts get heard is just like me hacking through them on a piano by myself during an encore just to like scratch the itch of a handful of diehards.
But we love that, us diehards love that because it's so real in that moment. And that's what we appreciate about your show, whether you're touring as the Wilderness or something corporate or Jack's Mannequin. It's so real. Like you're up there, you're like, let me figure this out. I don't know, let's figure it out together. I love seeing that actually.
For better or for worse, I don't know if it's that I thrive in that space as much as it's just like I think my willingness to go there has ended up being, a point of bonding with the crowd to just be like, I assure you, these things don't come out fully formed, and I'll prove to you just how bad that can look.
Mhm. It's fun though.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, so even songs aside, maybe songs included, what can fans expect differently? You got fans that will come see you in any iteration that you tour as,
Yeah.
right? What can we expect different at a Jack's Mannequin show? I mean, I know that you've done a lot of preparation mentally, spiritually, physically, but what's a little bit different? What feels a little bit different about this for us?
But I think the reality of just the Jax live experience is that it's like a truly kind of gritty four-piece rock
Mhm.
band. There's not a lot of bells and whistles. It's like, I'm at the piano for most of this set because, as soon as you lose one member of a four-piece, all of a sudden things get pretty quiet
Mhm.
or lopsided or weird. So, it's a very piano intensive show. I think the beauty of we've built this beautiful production, which is the first time Jax has ever toured with anything that looks like this. I mean, we're shoehorning like a $1 million production into these theaters and clubs because I wanted to be able to like attach some visuals, some sticky visuals to these songs and create like a really cinematic visual experience to go along with the live show. So that's been really fun because it's just like, and it was similar to what we did with something corporate last year. I mean, these are bands that when we first toured, the idea of production was you threw up a backdrop and maybe hired a lighting guy to like hit some buttons. Now
Mhm.
it's like to be in a position to like really perform these songs with a super evolved production, that is really cinematic, I think is going to be a rare and special thing for fans who've been fans of this band for a long time to get to see. And yeah, I think also just the fact that these set lists are I'm getting to a point where I'm like sort of locking in the first handful of songs and like trying to build a little scaffolding around the set. So it's like,
Mhm.
I know that there are these moments that, you want the beginning and the end of a set to land a certain way. So but I'm kind of like leaving the middle of the set as kind of this free for all where we're seeing what works and trying something new every night. And, I think if you come to more than one of these shows, you're going to get to see, rather than like the 22 songs or 21 songs we play in a set, you'll get to see 30 or more, because we're intentionally kind of really making the middle of the set like a living, breathing thing.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And you talk about it being a rare and special experience for fans. Also, on that kind of even higher than that is Red Rocks that's coming up. Is that still something that you're actively working on during the tour? Yeah, it feels like a mini version of the cruise kind of. But tell me where you're at with that right now.
It's fairly well mapped out, and it's incredibly ambitious and totally terrifying. I mean, I think about it all day long, every day. 3+ hours at altitude, somewhere in the neighborhood of like 40 songs. It's gonna be the most ambitious thing I've ever attempted.
Wow.
And I'm excited about it and I'm nervous about it, which is, those are the precursor emotions to all of the good things that I've ever done. So I'm okay with that. But it's a lot of people, I mean, if it weren't for the fact that Jax is headlining the Salt Shed in Chicago, that would have been the biggest show any of my bands have headlined. And then we're going to follow it up the next month with Red Rocks, and and to be able to put a feather in the cap of all three of these projects and say we headlined Red Rocks together. It's really exciting, but I'm taking it very seriously and really trying to do everything I can to be as prepared as I can and have the bands as ready as they can be, because it's a beautiful and overwhelming stage to play, and we're going to be there for a while. So it's going to be it's going to be an adventure.
That's awesome. Couple of quick things for me. Like, you're doing some unique things on this tour, which I find pretty cool. You're encouraging fans to go to the happy hours. I know you guys are busy with your rehearsals, but hey, fans, go meet up at the happy hours together. You've got these notebooks you have the fans signing. I know fan community is really important to you.
Yeah, it's been a really beautiful thing. Like, so I've been with C3. I've been a management client of C3's now for, probably going on 3 or 4 years now. And having a partner on that side that really gets, I mean, a lot of like these guys come from like the jam band world, and it, like it's like a live music first sort of approach to my career. So having a team that really gets that and is able to sort of help me build fan experiences that are meaningful, that drive this idea of community, because I can only think of so much, right? And I can only execute on so much, but they've been such great stewards of this base, right? And really have leaned into how do we respect this fan base, whether it's the work we're doing on ticketing or, setting up happy hours or whatever. It's like, look, you don't have to participate in this. You don't have to be like, I'm a community guy, but
yeah,
there
not
are a lot
everybody
of people there are a lot of people who have made lifelong friendships standing in lines for these shows and going to multiple gigs, and anything that we can do at this stage of the game to say, we see that and we want to recognize that and create unique experiences that maybe take this from just being a show you're going to at night with a friend or a loved one or by yourself. Maybe there's a place where you can go like high five somebody else who shares this common interest, and maybe it creates a bond. And seeing that happen on the cruise and throughout both of these reunions has been really, it's something that we've always known is there and seen happen independently outside of the touch of management or label or whatever, to really start helping facilitate that and be a partner in that has been really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing evidence of it right here, right? I mean, Steve and I met because of your music, so definitely grateful for that.
I love that. Yeah.
Did you do any writing with Jax while you were in the studio? I don't think you're playing any new songs yet, but did you go there at all, or was it just focus on this, making it amazing?
I mean, honestly, there's been like by the time I was done with something corporate, it was like, okay, shift gears. How do we build this production? And I did spend some time in the studio working on some rearranged versions of some of the Transit songs with this amazing violinist, and we sort of like a good friend of mine, Susie Shin. I don't know if you remember that song, New Year's song that I put out
Oh
a couple
yeah.
of years ago, which is like one of my favorites. And secretly, it's like I think it's like one of my favorite songs I ever wrote. And I'm like, how does nobody know that song? But Susie produced that with me, and so me and Susie and this incredible violinist, we just like sat in studio for a couple of weeks, and I'd boot up like one of the songs, play piano, and then we would like live arrange strings. And so some of that stuff should hopefully see the light of day around the Transit official 20-year anniversary. But yeah, I hate to disappoint anybody, but
No,
there's no new Jack Mannequin song as of right now.
that's not a disappointing answer. Not at all. Yeah, and speaking of recordings, Andrew, I know your management team brought in a company to record these upcoming tour dates and release
Yeah.
them through an app. So basically, for what I see to be a very little cost, I can have a recording on my phone of the show that I go watch. How did that come about?
Hysterically at South by Southwest, we ran in like we were at our shared Airbnb on the last night, kind of just celebrating a successful South by, and we're sitting in the pool attached to these few Airbnbs that we rented, and there was another group that was also renting there, and we ended up just sort of in a conversation with the guy who runs this company and liked the concept, and they were willing to do it at a low cost. I mean, you know me, it's like I'm fully on board, sell as much merch as I can and give people experiences. And but I'm not trying to pick everybody's pocket every corner I come around. And it was a model where we could, for low cost, provide provide bootlegs of these shows. And we're still ironing out the kinks. There was one show we couldn't do it for, but it's getting there. I think by the time we get through this next week, that it'll be a little more turnkey. But yeah, I mean, we just figured it was another way. If you really loved the show and wanted to own a copy of it, then you could. And this platform, there's a lot of great artists that are doing it now. So I
Yeah.
think there's also a built-in way to trade tapes on this platform and stuff, which I thought was pretty
Wow.
cool as well. So yeah, it's in its infancy, but I felt like because the sets were going to be different enough, it might be a cool way for people to experience the show and get to hear the different versions of the set list that come out.
Yeah, for sure. I've been waiting since I started going to concerts. We're close to the same age, and I've been waiting for my favorite artist to do this since the 90s when I started going to concerts in high school. So I'm like,
Yeah.
finally, I get a recording, like a studio recording a soundboard recording of the concert I go to see. I think it's an awesome concept, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't speak to my need for everything to be perfect that enters the world, but I feel like by just the diluting the whatever it is, the microcosm that will get these. If there's just enough of them out there, maybe people will skip the ones that I didn't nail that night.
Yeah, I know we're close on time, Andrew, and I want to respect your time. You got a busy night ahead too, and a show. But the wilderness, what does that look like? Is your and it was down the line, and that's a next year thing. But I'm sure you're thinking a couple steps ahead. What does that look like?
I'm honestly not thinking a couple steps ahead.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think very intentionally as I set these 2 years up, knowing that this was going to be this sort of slow walk through my beginnings, and that those beginnings landed me at the wilderness. I kind of wanted this experience to sort of deliver me to a similar, I don't know what's next moment, and be able to ask that question in earnest once I was through this. So I really, I don't know. And I'm sort of reveling in the not knowing and the possibilities that opens up for me.
Is that scary?
Yeah, it is, but it's also freeing in a sense, and I feel like I thrive when I ask that question without a safety net and don't have the answer. And I think I'm just ready to sort of go on another journey, whatever that is. And I don't take that as any bold statement. It could very well just be another record, but I just think we're in such turbulent time period, to say the least. But releasing music in the traditional sense has become less gratifying than it used to be, right? I just think that there's so much noise to cut through, and you guys know me. It's like I always want my fans to love my records, but the goal with every project is always to reach more people and expand your base and experiment. And I'm looking for the conditions that inspire that level of work, and I don't know what those are yet, and I'm excited to dig into it.
I actually love that answer. So
Good.
love that you're living in the moment. So well, I'll see you in Pittsburgh tomorrow, and I'm really looking forward to that. So that'll be an awesome show, I know, just like they all will. And I'll see a couple in the fall. I think, Steve, you're going to one in the fall, right?
I'll be at Red Rocks, and I'll be down the line at Warfield. Where
Hell yeah, you'll be helping us close out the run up there.
Absolutely. So yeah, we want to thank you for your time, Andrew, and I mean, wish you luck on the tour. We're so excited about this, and
Thanks, guys.
How you embrace it and everything is amazing too. So thank you.
Appreciate you all. Thanks for everything you do.
Thank you for your time.
Do you
have a good show?
We had one question before we wrap. Are you cool with us saving this until August and to coincide with 20 years of Jack's and his 100th episode and my 500th? Or?
Of course, whatever you guys need.
Okay, we wanted your blessing on that before you sign off. So. Yeah,
blessed.
Thanks so much, Andrew.
Well, have a good one, Andrew. We'll chat with you soon.
Take care. Have a good show.
Cheers.
Later.
Bye. Well, that was definitely a fun interview, Steve. Again, I got to say thanks for inviting me to that. Looking back, now it's August, and kind of looking back on this interview we did with Andrew back in June. What do you think?
Yeah, well, we're dropping this on the 20-year anniversary of Everything in Transit, and that's obviously a pivotal moment for both of us. I mean, we both have this really incredible appreciation for this album, and I hope that came through in this interview with Andrew. It's funny, like how much you forget over the course of 2 months, but because it's an interview that we both were, really happy happened, and to kind of have this milestone to mark that album. And for you, 5 years of you doing your podcast. For me, 500 episodes of my podcast, which is an incredible amount of time. I'm talking to different bands and stuff, but to have my favorite artist mark the 500th episode, why not? It's great.
Yeah, it's kind of perfect. Wow, I can't believe that you're up to just about 500 episodes at this point, and that you've interviewed all those musicians, and Andrew's been kind of your constant within that, right? You've interviewed
Constantine?
him. No. Yeah, Constantine. Yeah, you've interviewed him several times over the course of these, 20 years you've been doing this or so. What a way to celebrate. So yeah, like you said, my 5-year anniversary, I started this project and didn't know where it was going to go back in August 2020. The week we're releasing this episode here was the week 5 years ago that I was like, I'll drop an intro episode and start planning some song episodes and see where this thing goes. And here we are. I'm almost up to 100 songs. So I think sometime this fall we'll get to 100 songs, but 5-year anniversary for sure. It's very exciting.
Did you have an intent to interview Andrew when you created it? Was that a part of your plan, or was it more so to pay respect for the artists?
Oh, that's a great question. It was definitely top of mind. Obviously, it felt like a dream at that moment. It felt like, wouldn't that be cool if one day I could interview Andrew on this podcast that I'm starting? Because as you know, this is a pretty, small time operation I have here, and it's just like something I do for fun. And but it definitely did occur to me. It was like, whoa, what if like Andrew heard it? What if he heard me talking on a podcast? What if he actually came on the podcast? And then it happened, and it's like, well, that's kind of the pinnacle of this whole thing. That was, and now I got to talk to him again with you. So this was, and this one, honestly, it felt a lot more casual in a really good way. It just felt like we were just kind of like having a conversation with an old friend, which I really appreciated. I listened back to the episode earlier today, and I was like, wow, that was I really liked that. I really enjoyed that. And it was quick. It was 30 minutes, but I thought we covered a lot in those 30 minutes. What do you think?
Yeah, you and I did a couple of hours of preparation for this interview, which is I do put a couple of hours into each episode preparing, but it's different when it's an artist that you know so well, and also for me, have interviewed many times. Sometimes I'm hesitant to do an interview with an artist a second or third time, because it's like, okay, what are you going to talk about? Okay, they have a new album or they don't have a new album. It's like, so we're going to have the same conversation. But with Andrew, there's always something new, and it's always and it's always just this great opportunity to kind of reconnect on, with whatever he's got going on at the moment. And there's always something special to it too. I mean, like last year it was up in Seattle. I went to Seattle to do that and had him and Josh on, and but he's just such a part of our lives that it's like, hey, it's cool to be in some little way a part of his, right?
Yeah, very much so. It's interesting, being that this is 2 months after we originally, almost to the day, 2 months from when we originally recorded that with Andrew. And looking back on some of the things that he said, some of the things he has coming in the pipeline, supposedly he said that he re-recorded some Everything in Transit tracks with violin and keys. And he kind of said something like, maybe you'll hear that eventually, maybe around the time of the 20th anniversary, which now that we're here, I'm like, okay, should we be waiting for an announcement or what? I'm real
I think it
curious
might be
now.
dropped. It might be dropped tomorrow.
Oh, maybe, yeah. It could be. Maybe this would be the time. Maybe this would be the time to do it. But I was super excited, and it's funny. I said to him, he's like, I hate to disappoint you. There's no new Jack's music, new. And I was like, that's not disappointing at all. And I feel like listening back, that might have come off as like, no, it's not. I don't want new Jack's music. That's not what I meant at all. What I meant was it's not disappointing to hear that, hey, there's some re-recorded tracks, because I always appreciate when artists take songs that I love that they wrote and then kind of redo them in a different way. I was
Oh
excited
yeah.
to hear that myself. I don't know if everybody will feel that way, but that's where I sit with it.
Oh, sure. And an artist you appreciate, right? Andrew talked about, he was in a different headspace 20 years ago. Of course, he was in a different point of his life, half of his life ago.
Hmm.
But he still has this respect for this music that is such a part of him. And that he's this year bringing live, across the country. And then there's Red Rocks, which was its own beast in its own entirety, right? So,
Yeah, and actually, that interview with Andrew now sounds different to me, being that you lived through Red Rocks. I got to watch it on the live stream, which was pretty cool too. But hearing him talk about, he's like, I'm thinking about it every single day, and there's been so much prep put in, and it is one of the biggest things I've ever done. It'd be kind of cool to hear his thoughts. I'm hoping he's going to put more content out talking about how he feels about it after the fact now that it's happened, because it did feel like one of those pinnacle events of his life and his career to see that
yeah.
happen. I was really glad that I got to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. And I had a GA ticket, but then the day I fell into a second row ticket, someone in the fan club had an extra ticket, and I just, fell into that, and then I sold off my GA ticket when I got there. And it was just this moment, like, again, being a part of and supportive of his career since almost the beginning, and seeing it all culminate in this one show. I mean, for you, I mean, it's got to be like that for the cruise, because you were on that cruise and kind of
Hmm.
seeing all of the bands all together, maybe throughout the course of a couple of days.
Yeah.
But for someone who's on the other coast and like, okay, I'll go to Colorado and I could do
Yeah, understandable.
a night of it, with this special night. That was just incredible. It was amazing. And Red Rock's one of the most incredible venues and one of my favorite venues I've ever been to.
Had
To
you
see
been
it
there
there.
before? I couldn't remember if you'd been there.
I'd been there once before, saw
Uh-huh.
Weird Al there in 2019, I think, and
Nice.
with the Colorado Symphony. And so it was my second time, but I went back both days, both other days I was there, just to go in the visitors museum and to kind of see some of the history and just be a part of that environment there, because it was so incredible.
Yeah. And going to the fan community part of what we talked with Andrew about, it was so cool when I was watching the live stream and I saw you and I saw other people that I've met through this fan community, through doing this podcast. And it was kind of a culmination in a way of like, wow, there's like people on this, out enjoying the show, like singing their hearts out, having the absolute time of their lives. And I got to see that from home, and that was actually cooler than I even expected it to be, to see you guys. I don't know. I felt like I was kind of living vicariously through you by seeing you guys enjoy it so much.
Yeah, you mentioned Celeste. I had him on the podcast just before this one. It was part of the
Yep.
whole Red Rocks experience I'm putting on. So met him and his mom at the show. Met a bunch of other cool, people and fans, and I have this kinship and all around Andrew's music and
Hmm.
Dear Jack. A lot of them are connected to the Dear Jack Foundation, and just super cool people. So it's
Yeah,
great to be a part of that.
absolutely. And then looking forward to the future, Andrew's answer about what's to come or not knowing what's to come essentially was a really fascinating answer. Like I told you earlier, I listened back to the episode and I was like, wow, I'm really curious now that we're kind of on the other side of half the Jax tour and Red Rocks and don't get me wrong, the Jax tour is not over yet. It's far from over. There's a lot to go
I
actually.
haven't seen mine yet.
I
Okay.
know. Yeah, I hate to skip ahead, and Andrew's on that path. Like he's not skipping.
Don't spoil his set list. Okay. Don't.
Yeah. Let me list. It's so funny. We were like, yeah, you were like, Steve doesn't want you to say any set list spoilers. So then he dropped like 12 song names. And I was kind of, I heard myself cringing back in the recording, and it was funny. And like, but I told friends afterward. I told my wife, we were laughing about it after that interview, and I was like, if anybody's gonna spoil it for me, Andrew's fine. Like it is fine that it was Andrew. I would been upset if another fan spoiled it or if I saw the set list on accident. But the fact that I got to talk to Andrew and he was like, "Let me tell you all the songs we're playing right now."
One person gets a pass. Okay. And it's
One, yeah. Him and maybe his bandmates probably, but like I'd probably be okay with that too. But like it was funny though, and it was kind of funny to hear him riff on Bobby a little bit. Like Bobby doesn't know all the Jack's Mannequin songs. Don't listen to him. That was a funny moment for me, just because it was like I said so much on social media, and to friends in the fan base. Oh, I don't want to know any of the songs, and then like here it is on a recording, Andrew telling me a set list
yeah.
right before I
Yeah.
went to the show. But it actually wasn't bad. Like he said, and I think we can expect more of that at the fall shows, the show you get to go to, and I get to go to a show right before yours. I do expect there will be a couple of different songs. I really believe that because we saw a lot of different like I'd say one, two, or three different songs each night or so in the spring, and I think we'll see more of that in the fall.
Absolutely. So I want to thank you, Steve, for being a part of Concert Pipeline's 500th episode, and for also, I mentioned it before, but for doing your podcast as well, because I've learned a lot about Andrew's music just by listening to your podcast and hearing other fans and how and that connection that you've helped bring together in the community.
I appreciate that, Steve. Yeah, and thank you for being part of my 5-year anniversary, and kind of helping put this together. Because, like you said, we did a little bit of prep work, and there was some back and forths for scheduling, and I'm so glad that it all came together. And what timing, what an exciting time in Andrew's career to have this conversation, right? And good timing for the 20th year anniversary of Transit, like an album we all love so much.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, here's to 5 more years for you. I don't know about another 500 episodes
Yeah,
for me. That's
500
excellent.
more episodes. That's a lofty goal, but I hope you get to 1,000.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, for all of us here at Concert Pipeline and Something in the Wilderness podcast, that's Steve, and I'm Steve, and we'll catch you next time, I guess, right?
Absolutely. Thank you.